Good morning. I hope everyone has had a good week, and thank you guys so much, worship team, for always just blessing us and leading us in such a awesome heart of worship. This week's Torah portion is Numbers chapter 1 through 4, and I honestly could not pronounce the word for the portion, so I'm not going to attempt. So we're starting a new book of the Torah, or Pentateuch, and it's a portion that isn't filled with a whole lot of action. It's a census, which is kind of what Numbers gets its name from. There's a lot of numbers. And we have a great census being taken in chapter 1. It's chapters 1 through 4, right? So census and taken is chapter 1. We have the layout of how the tribes of Israel will be camped as far as around the tabernacle and stuff whenever they camp in chapter 2. And 3 and 4 both consists of roles and responsibilities, as well as kind of the numbering of the various clans of the tribe of Levi. Now, whenever we're entering into a new book, what I typically like to do is whenever I'm starting something new, I like to look at some contextual stuff about the book. I like to do a little bit of research, study ahead of time regarding time period, authorship, audience, anything like that I might find interesting to help kind of give some context as I continue to read through the book. And so just some little things. As far as authorship, it's very well held by Jewish and Christian tradition alike, Moses being the author, and that this was written 1440 to 1400 BC is a popular idea. Structurally, Numbers can be divided into 3 sections. We have the first containing a lot of census, purity laws, things of that sort. The second section showing us a lot of the journey of Israel, as well as the moment they decide to choose fear rather than choosing God's promise with entering into the land of Canaan and rejecting that. And then the last section is filled with more of Israel's rebellion, even in the face of a loving and protecting God, as Israel finally arrives right outside the promised land. So narratively, the book of Numbers is the 4th book of the Torah and picks up right after the story of Exodus, when God leads his people, Israel, out of slavery into Mount Sinai, which is where the majority, or this first section of the book, takes place. However, the major theme of the book, and what you can really find, I feel like, in all sections of Numbers, is the unbridled grace that God has for his people, even in the spite of rebellion. And I feel like that's a story that's very close to all of our hearts, especially those of us who have come into the faith and have looked back at maybe our past lives, or even we take where we're at now and look at where we've come when we first started in the faith, and we look at hindsight is 20/20, as they say, and I guess now it's 2025. But sorry, but we can look back and we see our own rebellion. We see a life filled with sin, and we can also look at how God has protected us through so much, even when we've rebelled, even when we have sinned. And I think the book of Numbers is so filled with that theme. And so as we go through the book of Numbers, and honestly, just the entire story of the Bible, we're going to find many more instances of this same human rebellion. And despite the atrocities and the wrongs committed by Israel in the Bible, committed by us, he still chose to provide. He still chose to protect, and he still chose to love his people. And while this week's portion may not be filled with much action, I hope that we continue to study, or while we continue to study through this book of Numbers, that this unfathomable grace, this unwavering love of God, that this would be seen both in this portion and throughout the rest of Numbers, and that it weighs heavily on our hearts throughout this book. Thank you guys so much. Shabbat Shalom.